Hey everybody, thank you for joining. Sorry I'm late. It's 100% my fault, as it always is, but my schedule is just back to back to back to back to back. You know me, I am Ryan Serhant. I'm the founder and CEO of Serhant, the greatest residential real estate brokerage in the history of the universe, the most followed real estate brand in the world. And I'm coming at you today from my office here, our headquarters at Serhant House, New York in Soho. And I want to talk to you about how to build a multi-dimensional real estate brand. We've got a lot of stuff to go through, and I've done it for myself, and I've helped other people do it, like the beautiful man sitting right next to me, Mr. James Nelson, who's built an incredible brand all on his own, even before I've known him. And I want to go through it. I want to talk about the brand steps that you need to take that we've both learned through a program and both through trial and error so that you can scale your business and your lead pipeline. So that's what we're going to go through today. Thank you so much for waiting. We're now going to get into this. So first of all, I just want to introduce James over here, my man. A little context and background. So first of all, James is the #1 investment sales broker in New York City. I've always known his name even before we met when I was a younger broker running around. I'd see him in The Real Deal, I'd see him in press, his building would sell, and it would be James Nelson all the time. Don't forget, New York City is one of the most competitive real estate markets in the world, and not just for residential. Someone's got to sell all these buildings too. These individual buildings, these multifamily buildings, these development sites, these assemblages, and also not just in New York. James sells everywhere because his company and everything that he does is all over the place. He sells something in like Nashville. Yeah, see, crazy. And he's a huge investment sales broker. He's an advisor at Avison Young. He was one of the early adapters of the Salt Lake Serhant Pro program. He's an industry leader. He's an author that you're all going to hear about and find out about really, really, really soon. And so I wanted to open this up and just start talking. And the first thing that I want to ask you is, we started the Pro program, okay, like a year ago, right? We launched the course, we started it, we put it out there, and one of the first people to sign up, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna get brokers from other states, right? Alabama, different countries, which all happened. But then Kyle comes to me, and Kyle Scott, he runs our course program and runs ventures, comes to me and like, hey, I think this pretty big broker in New York City just signed up for the Pro program, and like wants the whole kit and caboodle. I'm like, really? Who? It's like James Nelson in commercial? I was like, shut up. Really? No. And I was excited for a second, and I was totally nervous and freaked out. I'm like, oh my God, I've totally oversold this thing. How can I help James Nelson? James Nelson is like, he's one of the biggest brokers ever. He sells entire buildings. What do I know that can help James? So I think it would help everybody if you could just tell everyone, set the scene, take us back. What did your business look like in early 2019 before you started making investment into your brand? Because you were already doing good business. And what did your brand look like?
Awesome. First of all, Ryan, this is amazing. Thank you so much for having me here.
And welcome to our headquarters.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just huge fan and just happy to be a member and part of it all. So yeah, I've been doing this for over 20 years. As you mentioned, I'm an investment sales broker. So I do what you do for residential, but for commercial.
Yeah.
And it's really a business that, for the most part, is kind of below the radar. It's very heavy on relationships, and it still is. But it's very much just picking up the phone, dialing people, seeing people in person.
Right.
But it's not a business where it's kind of out there front and center. And I've always been intrigued to see, how you've elevated your brand and how you've been out there as a thought leader, been there for your audience. And I said, this has got to work for commercial, right? The fact that no one else is doing it is an opportunity.
Right.
So I wanted to understand how you did it, because I was dabbling a little bit with social media, and sure I had.
Right. Yeah, I remember when we had like breakfast.
I think you quadrupled my audience after we had that nice breakfast. But I really wanted to learn how you set this all up and how you did it. And
sure.
You completely 110% delivered.
Got it. So you were successful. You've been doing it for 20 years, but you're selling a lot. And you were known as, like, how do you think the outside world and your clients viewed you? You were just James Nelson, the guy that sold a lot of real estate?
There's a lot of other investment sale brokers in the city. It's a very competitive business, like your world. But look, I was just a transactor. I was one of the many brokers you could call if you wanted to do a deal. right?
Sure.
And so, but there was no one who's really, taken that position to say, hey, I'm going to be the face of this, and I want to be the advisor. I want to be the go-to source of information when it comes to real estate investing,
Sure.
right? Which, and still, like, it amazes me to this day, and I know we're going to get to the book later and everything, but if you went and you searched for, books on real estate investing right now, you'll probably get, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, How to Get Rich Quickly, but not how to actually invest in commercial real estate.
And how to do it today.
There's like a huge market opportunity for this, and someone had to do it. And so, what I found very quickly is your program that works beautifully for residential, you can apply all these things to commercial, or for that matter, I would think any sales business.
Yeah. How did you work on your brand before you got into the program? 2010, 2015. Mm-hmm. How did you work your brand, or did you even think about brand as a way to build clients, build lead inventory, build team?
Right. So not in the way, clearly today, but the emphasis was always on providing value, and that has not changed, right? And you've given incredible advice. You spoke to YMWRA last week, and you talked about the value of being an expert and being a specialist. And that is something from the very start when I began in the business was, hey, I'm going to focus on this neighborhood. I'm going to get to know everything about it. And I know that you are meticulous about that. When you go and you're working with a new buyer and you need to figure out a new market, you're spending hours walking the streets figuring it out. That does not stop, right?
Yes.
So what we're doing now, you're still the expert. You have something of value that you're sharing with the audience, right?
Yes.
It's not about like, hey, I'm James Nelson, I'm number one, aren't I great? It's, hey, how can I make you a more successful investor?
Got it.
How can I make you a ton of money, right? So it's all about them. So, but the key part is
your
really
brand
having
was like client focused, not on your own personal success.
and it was very heavy on the research to it. It was like, okay, we're your source for information, right?
Got it.
So because it's a very, the real estate investing business is very opaque, right? I mean, you see the trades, you know what apartments sell for, but you know when you're talking about an apartment building, you don't know what was the return it sold for, what was the what was the makeup of the tenancy.
Yeah.
So it's very opaque, and so to be able to be of service and kind of blow that wide open, say, look, I'm going to be your source for information. That's what we tried to do, but it was a very kind of one-on-one approach. It was a lot of direct mail back in the day, and just was not reaching the masses, right?
Got it. So you were very, very you were locally focused.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
In a way, in terms of like kind of your brand outreach.
That's right.
Because you were part of a firm that became, I think, pretty well known for having like your neighborhood experts who would knock on doors in that like 4-block radius, right?
Yes. So I started at Massynackle,
Yeah.
and this was when they only had 20 people, and I was only able to get the job interview because I went to Colgate, as did one of the founders, Paul Massey. I later found out there was only 2 people who applied for the job, and I was their second choice. So fortunately, Bob Nackle said, "Okay, well, I'll take this guy if he can fog a mirror." So I got in very early, and I was very lucky. But credit to them, they had this brilliant business plan where, hey, we're going to take the city, we're going to divide it up into territories, and we're going to focus on neighborhoods. Because a lot of brokers, and I'm sure you see this in your world, they try to be generalists. They try to be all things to all people.
Yeah, of course.
And what is it? Jack of all trades, master of none, right?
Yep.
So by focusing in on an area, I found that was a really great way to start my career, because if I just looked at Chelsea, and I knew every single sale, and I knew all about the new developments and the zoning changes, within 3 months, I knew more about that area than the veterans who'd just been running around for 20 years.
Because you were super focused.
That's right.
But then you were hyper local. So then your brand pre-2019 was top deal guy, right? Hyper focused on New York City, if not just individual areas. But you were known as being incredibly successful. Like, why didn't you think that was good enough? Like, why sign up for something that we put out there?
I knew there was something bigger, right? And there's this huge opportunity, and I'm sure you could have retired if you wanted to already, but it's like there's this massive opportunity where we can really change the way things are done, right? So if you look at the commercial brokerage business, it's probably been the same for the last 100 years. Like, think about it. The elements of how this works, people get retained, they call the people who they know, but they're gonna keep it quiet. commercial is not as broker friendly as residential, where you all of course you would send it out, you would share the information, you'd want it everywhere. But with commercial, it's I'm going to keep this quiet, right? Because I'm going to, which is code, which is code. I'm going to keep it for myself, right? And I don't need to go out there and share it with the whole world. And why not just blow the doors wide open, right?
Got it. Okay, so I think I have a pretty good idea, and hopefully everybody who's listening and watching as well, is kind of a good idea that you are incredibly successful. You've been doing it for a long time, but you knew you could take it to the next level. Because we meet with a lot of people. I was just with an agent downstairs, actually, who, great business, solid business, could keep doing that the same way every day. But there is more, right? And there's another way to really, like you said, like blow the roof off, no pun intended, I guess, to really unlock what a brand strategy system can do for your business. So can you take me back to then, because I want to get to what your brand is now, but can you take me back to like that first brand strategy session that you had with our team and kind of that discovery process of like, okay, what is James Nelson as a salesperson? He's not just James Nelson, the guy that sells real estate. He is...
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to be the advisor, to give my clients the inside edge for success. And so, how do I communicate that so people just don't see me as just any other broker where you can go do a deal with, right? And so I think the aha moment for me when I was sitting in the room with you and Joe, because I didn't understand, you had all these different worlds and I saw you doing all these different things, and obviously the show and the podcast and the book. And I did not realize that how all these worlds clearly overlap and how they all feed each other, right? And it's just like you're casting that much wider of a net. So like right now I've got my message, but I'm only delivering it to certain select people, right?
Got it.
And some people, they might respond to direct mail. They might like the phone call. They might like to meet in person. But there's also ways to reach a new audience. And I wasn't tapping into that. I wasn't expanding my audience.
Got it. So you wanted to expand your audience and let more people know. So what was one of the first things that you started working on then, as you went to rebuild and reconstruct and kind of give new meaning to your brand as James Nelson, the greatest investment sales broker in New York?
So I think it always starts with content. So I had to be able to deliver something of value that people wanted to actually hear and understand, right? So the podcast and your podcast, I mean, what you're delivering is incredible value, right?
Because you started yours.
Absolutely, yeah. So I've been going a year and a half strong, real estate investing live from New York.
Congrats.
And it's amazing. I mean, we were talking before this about how fun it is to sit down and have those conversations. You'd want to meet with these people anyways, but for the listeners, for the audience, for our network to have that resource, right? And to be able to, share those tips with them, it's about making them better, right? And that's really how I think you're building an audience for sure.
And that's one of the first things that you put out there, right? So then you had that, the podcast, which I think is awesome. Now a lot of people know that they can listen to you and hear what you're thinking and know that you also have a lot of connections around the city. People that otherwise you would never even get in touch with. So you're creating that passive audience, which is a big thing there. What was the next thing that you decided to start building?
So, the other thing is that you can get multiple bites of the same apple, right? So you've done this podcast, you now have an hour of content, right? Now you can slice and dice it, and you're the master of this, right? You can take one thing and you can do clips and you can post it through your social media feeds. And then, the basis of my first book are those lessons learned. The keys to success of real estate investing are from the podcast, right? I have those interviews. So it's just, taking that, because it's a lot of work. The effort that goes into this, so you want to get the most mileage out of it, right? So it was taking that podcast, it was deciding to go with the book, and you were awesome to introduce me to an agent that's working great. We're out shopping, actually the second book now, to find a publisher. So it's, having a lot of fun for sure.
Really, really cool.
Yeah.
So how do you then get the podcast out there to the masses?
Right. So, and we're actually pivoting now because I've got a very exciting announcement that I'd like to let your audience know, is we've just launched jamesnelson.com.
Nice.
Which is because of you. Yes.
Oh, thanks.
So I would have never done that ever, right? I mean, the whole idea
how many commercial
zero, none.
How many commercial brokers have their own websites?
None.
Investment sales brokers, none, right?
None.
Like retail brokers. It's just like residential real estate agents get used to creating their own websites because they feel like they have to. But I remember when we first talked about that, and you were like, "Excuse me, what? What do I have to do?"
Yeah, and I really had to think about the purpose of jamesnelson.com is to give people the insider's edge to investing. So you can go there, you can sign up, you can get an exclusive video series. Of course, you can get the podcasts, you can go research key terms, you can get links to helpful stuff.
Nice.
But, and that's where I want to debut the podcast. So originally I partnered with Voice America. They have 5 million subscribers.
Huge.
I said, I've never done this before. I want to just plug in and help them get it out there. And I'm going to continue to partner with them, but I want to launch it off of jamesnelson.com, because if I'm sending out a link and I'm telling you to go listen to my podcast, I'd like you to listen to it at jamesnelson.com, where you can actually engage with me.
Got it.
Where you can sign up for more information, you can access my listings, you can sign up to be an investor.
You built that capability into the website.
That's right.
Got it.
That's
and
right.
You just put it out there, but you started building it like in 2020 during COVID.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, just like from home.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I remember I even hesitated for a while. I was like, well, jamesnelsons.com's already taken. I mean, look, there's someone out there, and I don't know who they are, but they're buying up all these names. Right now. I think you said there's only 11 Serhants in the world out there, but apparently there's a lot of James Nelsons, or someone who said, hey, I'm going to be able to really hold this guy hostage.
Yeah.
So I said, what about James Nelson NYC? They're like, no, it's jamesnelson.com. So we bought it, we own it, it's out there, and it's really exciting.
How long did that negotiation take?
It was just, there was a little back and forth. So if you try to go buy a domain name at GoDaddy, I mean, I guess they're like the broker, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know who I'm negotiating with. Yeah. So, but clearly, I mean, how great is the market? Like, I mean, who else? Am I competing with other people that are James Nelson? I mean, maybe they're just saying, how bad does this guy want it?
Yeah, so, I remember when we started the business, I wanted @Serhant on Instagram, and someone else had it. I was like, really? Where? Like @Serhant. And we found that it was a guy in Turkey whose name was it Serhant Tasarifs, something like that. And so his Instagram handle was his first name, Serhant, last initial, which the last name started with a T. And we like DM'd him, everything, over and over. The guy never replied.
Right.
And I finally got a reply, and we had to negotiate basically a large donation to a children's orphanage in Turkey.
A donation?
But I think it was actually, we thought about that. We know where the money went. I mean, I think it was actually to an orphanage in Turkey. But anyway, because the brand name was so important, I didn't want anyone to have to say, oh, is it James Nelson NYC? Is it jamesnelson.org? What is it? Like, you want the .com, you just want the simple ad.
Yeah, not .org, .co,
you want to keep it as
else.
simple as possible. You don't have to tell people, sorry, no, it's James-Nelson123.
Right.
.org.net.com.
Yeah.
Like, it would just be too complicated.
Parents, buy your kids their domain names now. Do it now.
Dude, that is a huge thing. And as we think about brand too, thinking about also like your kids and kind of anybody else. It's one of those things you don't think about until it's too late.
Right.
So totally slightly off topic, but a little bit. But if you're listening to this, you don't own your handle yet or your website, make sure you go out and get it now. That's one thing that we talk to all of our pro members about, because you want to own your identity, right? A big part of figuring out what your brand is as part of our Serhant brand strategy system is core identity, consistent content, shouting it from the mountaintop. And that core identity is really, really important, that it's also really, really, really clear, right?
That's right.
So how do you then use your brand that you've now built, not just to go, because you went from James Nelson, investment sales broker that everyone in New York knows, to now James Nelson, investment sales broker in New York that everyone knows, and that grows every single day.
Right.
Do you have an example of a deal or something that's happened since you've started with us where you've noticed, like, wow, that happened because of the brand work that I've done?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the podcast, what amazes me is, even though I might not get the immediate feedback,
yes,
being out there now in this post-COVID world where we're out there at events, people are saying, hey, I'm loving the podcast. It's what has kept me going. And they've been sharing it with their friends. And it's just making the network that much bigger. And what it has led to in the short term, and again, this is all about building, is I'm doing speaking engagements as well.
Nice.
And I'm speaking at schools. So I've been a guest professor at Wharton, at Columbia.
Crazy.
So like now it's like, okay, well, that's one more thing to add to my credentials.
And those people are going to grow up and they're going to need somebody and they're going to know you're the guy, and you're the guy, and you're the guy.
That's right. But it's all about planting seeds, right? And,
yes.
and you never know when you get that call where it originated from, right?
Got it.
So
why do you think, why did you wait for us though? Like, you could have started a podcast 10 years ago. You could have built a website, I don't know, in like 2000. Like when the internet came out in 95. So you could have done this stuff a long time ago. What was it about our program? And this isn't to pat myself on the back. It's just, if anyone out there is confused, et cetera. Yes, you're in New York, so maybe people are saying, oh, well, he's in New York, so that's what made sense. But what was it about what we were positioning and offering to you where you said, okay, no, that's the program and now's the time?
Right. So I just, I think part of it is you're so busy with the day-to-day that you're like, oh my, this is just going to be one more thing.
That thing.
I don't have the time. I can't figure this out. It's not going to happen. And so the fact that you guys
it's
had
overwhelming because you don't have a plan.
The fact that you had a roadmap, right? It was step by step. Like you've done this before, right? Okay, so we're going to tweak this because it's a different audience, but this has been done before, and clearly it works.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think knowing that and like, hey, here's a course where we're going to teach you how to do it, and we're going to support you. And your team, again, has been amazing because it's not like I just graduated from the program and that was it.
Yeah.
Like the constant support throughout. Like whenever I have a question.
Now you're with us for life.
Totally, I'm in. So no, that's been a huge part of it for sure.
Got it. That's so cool. How do you? Because a big part for me for brand is I want to build my brand as large as possible so that Serhant is synonymous with luxury real estate all over the world. Okay? And then I want business to come my way so that while I'm sleeping, I can wake up and say, what leads came in that night that I didn't have to pay for.
That's right.
Other than with my time and my brand building that we've done over time. But it also enables me to really leverage my time, right? Because branding is now work for you. So how do you think about, now you're doing all these things. You're building the website, you're adding content to it, you're writing the second book, you're doing the podcast, you're doing speaking engagements, you're doing social all the time. I see your videos all the time. You're LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, everything. Those things don't come with zero time. It's a lot of time and a lot of work.
Right.
How are you now justifying all of that work for either the short game or the long game and being able to sell more?
Right. So when I started in the business, I could call, an owner or a client every week, right? Time was, you had plenty of free time. So, but you get busy, right? And then it's like, how do you continue to stay in front of your audience in a meaningful way? So if you really think about this content that I'm going to deliver is going to be helpful, right? And I'm going to stay top of mind, right? And the goal for me is if, one of my clients, if someone is at a cocktail party or whatever, and someone says, hey, my family business, we're shutting it down, we've got to sell our building, they're going to say, call James Nelson. Like, that's the key. But I'm always trying to solve their problems. So, right now, and it's a lot, maybe it's a little more boring than what you guys are doing, but like, we have to worry about like taxes and, what's going to happen with this tax policy. And so, I put myself in the client's shoes. And what do they need to know? What do they need to look out for? Because they don't want to sit there and they don't want to interview or sit down with the head of the real estate roundtable. But I'm plugged into all that stuff. So if I just take that knowledge and I only share it with a couple people, like that doesn't do much good, right? But if I can really break it down and synthesize it, and so my audience always stays one step ahead of the curve, like that's the key. And so it's amazing then that I don't always have to be the one reaching out to start that, right? Instead of just always having to be, proactive. Then the calls are coming to you. Hey, James, thank you so much for doing that webinar. That was really, it was a little painful to hear, what's coming down the pike, but I needed to know that. And you teed it up so I didn't have to go look for it.
Got it.
That's the key.
Got it. I want to talk to you a little bit about results, obviously, because you can do all this work, you can build your brand, you can put it out there, you can put all the steps into motion.
Right.
You got to be consistent with it, and it doesn't happen overnight, right? It takes time, but it is about the results and generating deals and creating more awareness. But what would you say to anybody who's saying, I don't need to do that? One, I have enough business as is, this seems like a lot of work, Ryan and James, or who's saying, that is a lot of work. Also, the best brokers in my market, they're not out there. They're not loud, right? Serhant can do that. But in my market, the best brokers are quiet. They're ninjas, right? They're secret. It's just about the network. So I'm not going to do all that. I'm just going to know more people. Like, what are you saying to the naysayers who say, I don't need to build a brand to do big business?
You're completely missing out. this is a new world we live in. I mean, what you've built
FOMO.
here, the foundation that you've built your company on is that you don't have to do brokerage the way it's been done for the prior 100 years, right?
Sure.
Every other business has evolved, right?
True.
So, either you're going to be joining this revolution or you're going to get phased out. Like, how can you not embrace it? You can't, like, that mentality where, hey, I'm going to just keep everything for myself. Like, that doesn't work. You don't grow.
Yeah. True.
So it's a huge missed opportunity for sure.
It's the Blockbuster Netflix conversation.
That's right.
Right. It's the Strand bookstore Amazon conversation. Like you can really hold on to the past and the way you did things traditionally for as long as you want, but you're going to completely ignore the future and the possibilities of your business. Because I'll tell you too, you do deals outside New York, but one of the biggest things that I've noticed about brand awareness and creating it is it's now not just New York City people that know me as somebody who sells real estate. It's people everywhere. So people all around the world and other agents reach out to me, one, to do deals in New York, but also reach out to me to do deals everywhere. Like, I would not be selling $100 million houses in Florida if it were not for the brand strategy system we put in place here. And what I work on with you, my whole team works on with you, and we work on with all of our other pro members, is just what we've learned.
Right.
And we're just saying, okay, this is what works because we just did it yesterday at 4 o'clock. Now you do it. And this isn't from the 1980s. This isn't from a DVD we saw in the 90s. This isn't, our parents' idea of, building a nice, powerful brand. Brand is almost even the wrong word. We're building attention awareness, right? It's the new version of AA for us, right?
Love it.
Yeah. It's
Well,
just
you're-
attention awareness all day long.
But you're also making it easy for your audience, right? So for
Yes,
your audience, everyone
100%.
who's listening, if they have a question about commercial real estate, they can reach out to me, right? They can connect, and if I can't help them, I can find someone who can.
Yep.
And that's what people want. They want easy. They don't want to have to look and search for the answers.
Yeah.
So you're there from the top of a mountain, as you said.
Yeah, and the world is global now. Like we're following people, who are having ideas in California, and there are now our ideas 10 seconds later because we saw them in the palm of our hand. The idea that it's meme culture, right? It's the ideas that can totally transfer around the world so fast. Information can do the same thing, and real estate can do the same thing, and sales can do the same thing. So you're not just the specialist in this market, right? You're a global specialist in a global market now. And even if that means you'll do 10 more deals, right? Instead of 1,000, but 10 more deals in other areas with other agents and other networks, the forest fire that those 10 will create for your brand and your business are huge, but you're not going to do it unless you have all the brand pieces together that we go through together. Talk to me a little bit about, thinking about brand, but coming out of the pandemic and implementing your brand strategy through COVID-19, and especially in a world where the commercial real estate world started to come back much slower than even our residential world, which came back a lot slower than the rest of the world.
Right. So, and I saw this back in 2009 when the investment sales market in New York dropped 90%, right? And so I remember what that was like. I was sitting at my desk, I didn't even know what to do, right? But I just kept showing up, right?
Yeah.
And meanwhile, a lot of my competitors said, I'm taking the year off. I'm going to go travel, whatever, right?
Yep.
And it's the same thing now. I mean, we could have sat around and, made excuses, hey, nothing's happening, but your most valuable asset is your time, right? And when else would we have had a block of time to work on stuff, to build a company, to write a book? So, to really use that time effectively, so because we know this isn't going to last forever, right? So when you come out of it, you come out of it that much stronger. So, but you're right, our market was decimated. Even into early this year, we have not seen sales activity that low since the financial crisis. The good news is our team, we looked at what we did in the first half and we compared it to our sales and our contracts for the second half. We're doing 7x for the second half of this year because there's all this pent up demand, right? Because last year, if you were an owner, you're saying, I'm not going to sell into this market. No one knows what's going on out there. And now, maybe we're not completely out, but it is what it is. And you're either going to say, okay, I can either transact now or I can, stay and hold.
100%.
And buyers aren't looking to steal things anymore. So we are as busy as we've ever been, but that's because we did the work, right? We spent the time. And the other thing is we didn't stop talking to people.
Yeah.
So, and as much as, we can
when
get our...
When everyone else went on vacation, you guys were the brokers here. You're like Forrest Gump on the boat, right? In the storm.
That's it.
With Lieutenant Dan. That's what you're doing. You're
Fried
there.
Champ, right?
Yeah, all through 2020.
That's right.
Every other commercial broker left, and I know that for a fact, but James Nelson was there, starting the podcast, writing the books, building the website, freaking riding through the storm, and it works.
100%. But I want to emphasize something really important for your audience, which is as important it is to have this brand and this digital strategy, there is still no substitute for picking up the phone and calling people. And you're a testament to that. Because when I hear people talk about your success, they say you're not all Hollywood. And I love how you talk about hey, I'm on MDL and now all of a sudden my phone lights up and everyone says, hey, sell my property. It doesn't work like that, right?
Yeah, no,
that helps open the door, but you now can reach out. And now instead of making that cold phone call where like here's just one more broker bothering me.
They've seen your thing.
They've seen your stuff. Like, hey, awesome to hear from you, right? And so you're teeing it up, and it makes that call and that conversation so much easier. So like last year during the pandemic, I don't even know what was going on, but reaching out to people saying, hey, how are you hanging in there? How's the family? Where are you camped out? Yeah. And when else are we going to have an opportunity to have conversations like that?
In the middle of the day.
For sure.
Right. And it's not like anyone was at lunch. That's right. Like, where are you? I'm at home. That's what everyone was doing. Yeah, it was an amazing time to build. And as sad as the pandemic was, it was a time that I will always remember as an amazing period of fast growth, because we all kind of took a step back and said, let's stay healthy, let's grow, let's build. And how many listings are you working on right now?
60.
60 commercial listings.
Yes.
What's the most number of listings you've ever worked on, though, in your career, though?
40.
I don't get it. So you're working on more listings right now than ever before?
Absolutely.
Do you think that's just because of the market or brand or both?
It's both. I mean, we could never completely outperform the market.
Sure.
But doing all this work in preparation created this.
Huge.
But I want to also specify, it's not just, hey, who can rack up the most listings? We're very selective about what we take on. Because we're having really candid conversations with our clients saying, look, this is what it is, this is the pricing, and this is what we can deliver on. And so what we want to be known as is, we are the most active shop for transacting. So if you want to invest in commercial real estate, you're coming to us because we get deals done, right? We're not just putting stuff out there that's overpriced. That's so we want people to come to us to transact because they know that we're in the flow.
Got it. I love it. So we've gone through James Nelson pre-brand work, James Nelson during the brand build out, James Nelson now, right? The brand that's out there. But what I love about you too, and the reason that I wanted to do this with you is I think a lot of people think like, okay, so I'm going to sign up for that program. Serhant's team is going to help me build my brand, and then boom, phone's going to light up. You just said that that's not how it works, right? You still got to do phone calls, you still got to do the work. But you're also saying, okay, that was all phase one, and now you're doubling down. So talk to me a little bit about what you're doing now. Like, what does the next 12 months look like for you as far as brand strategy work goes into it that is going to pay off for future business?
Right. So I think all these building blocks, and it started with the podcast and then the website and the video series, and it all builds on each other. And you've been the master of this, and with the course and everything, all the additional support and all the offerings. There's multiple business lines. So, right now I'm just trying to put it out there, right? And then the question is, how do you monetize it? Right now I'm giving away the product for free, right? The book will be for sale, but it's, how do you build on that? And then ultimately, how do you monetize it? And maybe it's just, keep giving this away for free because it's just going to fuel the brokerage business.
Oh, but you want those users, you want those subscribers, you want those people.
Yeah. But I really, that role, and as I said, why I was writing the book is because when you think about commercial real estate investing, you'd probably be hard pressed to, think of some names as far as, who's the go-to for that.
There's some like scary ones. There's some ones that make me very nervous.
That's right. So I want to, that spot is open
You wanna be
for the
that guy.
taking. That's right.
It's all about being the one who. And that's something that I put in this book when I wrote it, 3 years ago when we put it out, was, you want to be the one who, and you want to be the one who sells investment properties, right? Like you want to be that guy. So when people think about that, whether they're going to hire somebody else or not because they have a pre-existing relationship or who knows what else, you're at least part of the conversation. And I want the same thing for me for residential real estate. I pitch a lot of things. I don't get them all, but at least I'm a part of the conversation. And if you do your job, you never know what else is to come. So even if you are honest, they'll come back to you, right? They'll come back to you. Listen, man, this has been awesome. I'm super excited about everything that you're doing. You're an amazing, amazing example of like literally someone who is already so successful then unlocks like the next part of your whole career by putting yourself out there as the one who does what you want to do. And you found that niche in your market and you can do that. And everybody else who's watching this, like I wanted to have James here because one, he's a very real man, right? He's sitting next to me. Two, he's one of the first people to sign up and take that jump and jump off the diving board and take that risk. And three, he's proof is in the pudding, and has done incredibly, incredibly well, even before me, but incredibly well now. And it's just been amazing to watch you really, really, really build. And the amount of people who come up to me now, without knowing that we do this together, but who like mention in a totally different conversation, like, oh, did you see that thing? Jay Nelson put that out, or who have shown me one of your videos talking about a building, like one of your listing property tours, and I just smile. I'm like, fucking, that's awesome. I think it's just super, super, super cool. And so if this has been helpful to any of you, I just wanted to do this as a real testament to how important it is to think about yourself as bigger than just you, the salesperson. You're an entire movement, you're an entire career, you're a brand, whether you know it or not. And the minute you actually start finally working on refining what that brand is, what your and is, what that identity is, and letting the world know about it, you will do more business than ever before. I am the testament to that. James is a testament to that. And if you want to know more about it, go to ryanserhant.com/pro. And we would love to interview you to bring you into the process. It's not for absolutely everybody. You got to be willing to do the work and want to do the work. And the pro members that are a part of our program are really, really great hard workers. They refer deals to each other all of the time. But ryanserhant.com/pro. You've all been great. James,
awesome.
You're the man.
Thank you.
Really looking
this
forward
is a lot
to the
of
second
fun.
book and
Can't
listening
wait.
to your podcast and letting everyone else tell me how great you are as I walk down the streets in New York City.
Awesome. Thanks again and best of luck to everyone out there.
Of course.
Sign up for your pro memberships.
Yes.